Hey, this is Tex, and welcome to Tex Talks. Glad you stopped there for a second. And if you're looking at this, hopefully you caught the last video that I made. This is an add-on because I do try to not make the videos so long that people will get overwhelmed with the information or stuff I'm putting out. But in the same token, this is usually a conversation with me, and conversations don't go fast because I'm a Southern boy, and if I've always said we say one thing to say one thing to say something else to get around to a point that we talked about the other day, and we'll finish it up later on. That can be hard to follow, so I do things in chunks. Also, if you have ADHD, chunks is a good way to handle things because too much at one time and we start looking at squirrels and butterflies and head off on our own way. So to the point, this is part of my last conversation. I've been talking about things like, do you have BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, versus do you have bipolar, stigmatizing people with disorders. There was a short video on NPD, narcissistic personality disorders. And before I actually go on with some more videos about going into detail on NPD or talking about other things, I would like to take a second to have everyone reflect with BPD. Those people were heavily stigmatized and still are sometimes. And people with narcissistic personality disorder are now dealing with that same kind of, okay, it's out in the open and people are talking about it and everyone's getting a club to beat on them. And my thought pattern is of course, why do we go about things that way? And I see it as a societal thing. It's how people handle things they don't like or don't understand. We tend to build lots and lots of prisons and spend lots of money on punishing. We may even spend lots and lots of money on hospitals, rightly so. Big believer in having health care for people. We tend not to spend as much time on dealing with the causes. Multi-billion-dollar industries on dealing with high blood pressure. Not so much money has been spent equal to that on preventing high blood pressure. Yeah, we have some, but nowhere near. We often tend to bandage the wound without actually putting any effort towards figuring out how to stop the wounds from happening. We are just now starting to pay more attention in a bigger way. Many of the problems in society, those problems have been here for a long time, and even though people looked at them in the past, even though some resources were put towards them, and we've been studying what happens to early childhood events and family genetics and even health as far as nutrition and the effects it has on infants, children, who then become adults, we're still way behind the power curve on this. And thus we are also with mental health. Some people would rather build more hospitals, mental health hospitals, if you will, psych wards, to contain people, and less money actually going out there on the street helping people so that they don't need a psych ward, that they don't need to go inpatient, that they don't need to go residential. It's getting better, but we're still way behind, and we could do way more. So I guess this video is my own way of saying that instead of finding more ways to punish, we need to find more ways to prevent. We need to educate. We need to put the information out there. We need to provide health and resources and things for people to live a better life. We need to realize what are the sources of many of the ills of society, if you will, any of the problems that people have. What can we do to help prevent that? Maybe then over time, less money will be needed to be spent. We have found out over the years that many people with mental health problems end up in the prison system. Prison system's expensive, but it's very commercialized. A lot of money to be made. Not so much money to be made sometimes out of convincing people to take vitamins, change a lifestyle. More money to be spent helping infants, children, adolescents be educated, have hope in their future instead of stigmatizing their problem and blaming people for all the woes of society on the individual people instead of working to help people. Yeah, and I know it sounds a little preachy, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm on the soapbox, but I guess I am, because this reflects in how we treat people with mental health issues. We often tend to blame them. We often tend to say it's their fault. Again, it's back to me listening to somebody tell someone who has a speech impediment, just speak slower and clearer. That don't fix the problem. Or telling someone who's having a panic attack, just calm down. Really? That's what we hear. Yes, calming down would help your panic attack. I don't think telling them to calm down is working though, but I just think it needed to be said. Anytime you look at someone, take the whole picture in mind, ask questions, gather information, because part of the conversation that literally happened when the whole one of NPD went up, was if you want to help people who are the victims of any kind of abuse, and let's say we'll pick one, narcissistic abuse, or someone who's been the victim of the rage by someone else with a personality disorder or a mental health condition. I know you want to give help to the person who's the victim right now, and I totally agree. But wouldn't it be a better world if we could find a way to also put some of the resources towards the actual conditions of the people who have NPD, their diagnosis, how they got to be that person who's doing that thing. And I know it almost sounds like the whole plea to, if you want to have less crime, you need to find some way to help the people who are committing the crimes not become criminals. And I think that's true. You can't just blame the criminals as being criminals. Yes, I'm saying you have responsibility for your actions. I don't doubt that. What I'm saying is, though, if you help people find a better way, if you help find the causes and you find cures, then you might have less of these things at the level it's at now, which means that down the road you have less people who become the victims of those things, which means the whole system calms down. And that's why I feel resources need to be spent on both ends, and that money needs to be spent helping people who have mental health problems as a whole, not just any one particular sector, but all parts of it. Because as we're helping more people, we're helping more people. Fewer of these mean fewer of these. It's just a simple matter of the math. I know it may be very difficult to feel empathy for someone that you're angry at, especially if you were on the receiving end of any of this. I get it. I empathize. I know it's difficult. I just want us to take a minute to look at the whole situation. And I also want us to work on it, reducing the number of severe cases of NPD, BPD, helping people who have that recover and achieve a whole life will have huge benefits down the road. So think about it. Let me step down off this soapbox. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you later.